Right, economists at the UK-based bank RBS are forecasting a veritable blitz in the Eurozone's monetary policy, aiming to combat the ever-increasing threat of deflation in the world's largest single market. In a report called Deflation Motel, you can check in, but you can't check out, RBS predicts that the European Central Bank will have no alternative other than to increase its balance sheet by as much as 4.5 trillion euros. That's 5.3 trillion US dollars. Investors are warned that the resulting bond buying will see the German Bund yield drop to record lows, while 10-year yields sink to near 0% or lower in core countries. The figure also implies at least 2.3 trillion euros of quantitative easing, 3 times more than previously suggested by ECB officials. The move, well, it mirrors policy in Japan, where the central bank's aggressive purchasing strategy has also driven bond yields to 0%. Confused? Yeah, I am too. I'm joined in the studio by financial analyst Yannick Naud. Okay, can we just try to sift through these? It's incredibly complicated, this, isn't it? Right. So what exactly, assuming these figures are roughly correct, never mind the figures, what will the European Central Bank actually physically do?
Okay, right now the balance sheet of the European Central Bank is roughly 2.2 trillion euro. It's composed, there is gold. I think there's 343 billion of gold. There is foreign reserve, like any kind of central bank. I think it's around 250 billion. The quantitative easing is the process of buying government bond. In the case of the ECB, it will be the process of buying government bond issued by the 18 countries of the Eurozone.
And they get the cash, as it were.
Yes, I mean, they print. It's a way, in fact, to print the cash instead of printing the cash. You just buy some asset, and therefore it increases the size of your balance sheet. The prediction of Royal Bank of Scotland is the most aggressive prediction of any big banks. What we know is that the target from Mario Draghi is supposed to be 3 trillion. And next week there might be an announcement in order to launch this bond purchase. And there's been rumor that it could be a 500 billion bond purchase.
So simply put, there would now be a huge amount of money available to be lent by banks and so on. And to be honest, given the present scheme that there is with the ECB, that hasn't been massively successful because banks don't want to lend to businesses that aren't necessarily very firm, and that's a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
The whole premise is that it should be beneficial for the economy. Yeah. As we have seen in different countries, the results have been different. For example, in UK and the US, the scheme has been a bit more successful than in Japan, for example. But you have to keep in mind that they start to buy government bond when the yield was around 4%. Today, the Bund yield, I mean the German 10-year yield is around, 0.46%. So they will start to buy government bond at extremely low yield. Will it have an impact on the real economy? Well, it will depend if people want to borrow this money because they have some project or because they want to grow their business. If the economy is not growing, it's unlikely.
Okay. So the European Central Bank meets on January the 19th. Yes. And there'll be lots of people who don't want this to happen. The Germans don't necessarily want it to happen, and so on. There'll be a lot of other people saying, hang on a second, the Greeks go to the polls as well. Now, we all know what's happening with Greece. Now, A, do we want to buy their debt? And secondly, shouldn't we postpone this until we know what's happened in Greece? Will that stand in the way?
Well, I think even, it's not official yet, but I think that in any case, the ECB is unlikely to buy Greek government bond just because it's not investment grade. It's too risky for the balance sheet of the bank. Having said that, it's true that Greece is one more risk, and there's a contagion risk for other countries of the periphery. So I think if there's a higher risk of Grexit, of Greece going away from the Eurozone, it will have an impact on the balance sheet of the ECB because they will try to print a lot of money to make sure that they stem any kind of contagion risk.
Right. Just finally on this subject, and do stay with us later in the programme, but finally on this, is 3-4 trillion euro, is it a lot of money? That probably sounds like a silly question. Is it, in general terms, I mean, it's almost as big as the move made by the United States, isn't it, after 2000?
Yes, it's an incredible move. I think what is important to remember is the fact that usually when a central bank makes the first step of doing quantitative easing, it's much easier later on, whatever it's in 6 months' time or 1 year time or 2 year time to print more money, because the first step has been done. We have seen this in States where there have been a series of quantitative easing, and in Japan where they've been doing quantitative easing for many, many years.
Yannick, for the moment, thanks very much indeed for taking us through that.